o'clock, so I'll call this meeting of the Plan Commission for Wednesday, December 15th to order. Mr. Miller, will call the roll, please?
Yeah, Council President Paschal,
Here.
Panker,
Here.
Caprillion,
Here.
Golden, Schmidt. We have a quorum.
Okay. Item number 3 is the approval of the minutes of the November 16th, 2021 meeting. Motion by Mr. Panker, second by Chris Golden. Any discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion carried. Item 4 is to identify potential conflicts of interest. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with any of the items on the agenda tonight? Nope. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 5, citizen comment. Are there any citizen comments? Citizen comments?
If you're here for an item that's a public hearing.
Yeah.
Fine, sorry.
If you're here for one of the items on the agenda, we'll give you an opportunity to speak then. Okay.
When we open up, we'll open up for the item you want.
All right. Okay. Seeing no further citizen comments, we'll go to item number 6, which is a conditional use request by Gerhart Brown for an exception to the height and opacity requirements for a fence within a front yard setback for the property located at 1709 Divine Drive, parcel number 33-06792, zoned SR2 single family residential, presented by Stephen Wiley, city planner. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you. So as mentioned, I am Stephen, for any of you that do not know me, the new city planner here, so taking Bryce's position. This item is a CUP request for an exception to our fencing requirements for the front yard, notably height, opacity, and setback requirements. So you can see an overview here of the subject site in blue there, hatched. It's a single family lot, and it is surrounded by single family properties of varying character but similar scale. Wildwood Park and Zoo, I believe, is to the east. And then there are a few multifamily properties up to the northeast, just kind of barely visible on that aerial, or that site map there, I should say. But the immediate surrounding properties are single family. Next slide, please. So the applicant did approach Development Services staff and explained what he was looking to do in regards to fencing on this lot. Our ordinance provisions here, I don't have to read them word for word, they're in your staff report, but just wanted to call out the fact that typically in the front yards, you have to maintain a 30-foot setback for fencing. It cannot be any taller than 4 feet in height and cannot be more than 50% opaque. So generally, a picket fence would be something that would be permitted by right. But exceptions are allowed through conditional use permit process. Next slide, please. So here is a site plan just showing, you can see the yellow line there on the northern property line there. And that's where this fencing would be proposed. So it's 76 linear feet of 6-foot solid white vinyl fencing. And it will not be in the vision triangle, so that's a plus. It starts 15 feet back from the front property line rather than the required 30 feet. Next slide, please. There's an image of the proposed fencing there, just showing, or of what would be continued, I should say. So that fencing there, it would be matched, and the applicant would just extend it. And it would be for privacy purposes. The applicant's house is set back about 92 feet from the front property line, so a fair distance. So just looking to have a little bit more yard. It also serves to kind of buffer between the neighboring property and this property. So it has benefits for both. Next slide. So staff recommends approval of this CUP request for an exception with the findings and conditions listed in your staff reports.
Okay, this requires a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing. Is there any comment from the public on this matter? Any comments from the public? Going 3 times, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. And is there a motion from the committee?
Move to approve the conditional use request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve for Mr. Pinker, second for Mr. Golden. Is there any discussion on this? I just have a question, because I assume that the setback is from where the road is straight rather than where it curves there. Or how does that work with the round, the circle there? How does that work into the ordinance?
Well, that red line would be the 30-foot setback. Within that setback, fences would have to be 4 feet high or less and
Okay.
50% opaque. So that red line is where you'd measure that 30 feet.
Okay, that was my question when I was looking at that at home. Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve the conditional use permit requested by Gerhard Brown. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Item number 7 is a conditional use request by Cardell Potter for in-vehicle sales or service and outdoor commercial entertainment land uses to allow for drive-through services and outdoor dining with exceptions to the parking and landscape requirements in the UMU, Urban Mixed Use Zoning District, for the properties located at 603 North Central Avenue, parcels 33-01547, 33-01549, 33-01550, 33-01551, and 33-01552, presented by Emmett Simkowski, Associate Planner. Emmett.
Thank you, Mr. Paschal. So the subject property is located on North Central Avenue, between intersections of Franklin and Edison on North Central. Primarily, it's a commercial corridor. The subject property is zoned UMU Urban Mixed Use. Across the street is Weiler's and CMU. And then to the east, across the alley on Maple, there's some residential neighborhoods. So this proposal was brought to the Plan Commission in 2017, and it was approved as a conditional use request for a multi-tenant building. In 2018, it was given an extension by council. However, it never got started. The current owner right now has an applicant, or has a potential buyer that's ready to proceed with the project as previously approved. So the proposed project is a multi-tenant commercial building. It will include outdoor dining areas, and potentially 2 drive-through businesses. The drive-throughs in the hashed area located in the back. There's one that would be the south side, and then there's one that'd be on the northeast side. So in-vehicle sales or service, it's defined as land uses where sales and or services are conducted to persons in vehicles or to vehicles which may or may not be occupied at the time of such activity. Such land uses often have traffic volumes which exhibit their highest levels concurrent with peak traffic flows on adjacent roads. Examples of such land uses include, but are not limited to, drive-in facilities, drive-through facilities, fuel stations, and car washes. So within the UMU, in-vehicle sales and service and outdoor commercial entertainment is conditional use. So applicable land use requirements of Chapter 18, in-vehicle sales or service shall not impede or impair vehicular or pedestrian traffic, shall not endanger public safety. If there is a canopy, the canopy setback should be 10 feet from a right-of-way, 20 feet from residentially zoned parcel, and 5 feet from all other property lines. A buffer yard is required when abutting residential properties. In this case, abutting would mean directly touching it. The fact that there's an alley separating this would not consider it abutting. There should be a 6-inch interior curb separating the drive aisle from stuff as fuel pumps, vacuums, or menu boards. And then the drive aisle stacking shall have 100 feet of stacking behind the pass-through window. and 40 feet beyond the pass-through window, and the site plan meets those requirements. So the next land use is outdoor commercial entertainment. These are land uses which provide entertainment services or wholly outside of an enclosed building. Such activities often have the potential to be associated with nuisances related to noise, lighting, dust, trash, and late operating hours. Examples of such would be outdoor eating and drinking areas, food vendors, and related seating used longer than 30 days. So on the site plan, it will be located on the north central frontage, so it will be more than 50 feet away from the residential properties behind it. No buffer yard would be required because it's not abutting any residential properties. So then we get into the parking space. So because the tenant spaces are not set in stone of what's going on in there, parking requirements would be variable. So if there was only one restaurant going in there, it'd be required to have 47 parking stalls where they're proposing 51. However, if they have two restaurants in there, they'd be required 54 and they'd be short by 3. So they're also asking an exception for parking requirements. So earlier today, I got a phone call from an applicant and he was looking at conditions, the recommended conditions that were 4,000 square feet of restaurant space. He requested that if they could have 5,000 square feet of restaurant space. What that would impact is the parking. That would add, there'd be total of 58 required parking spaces then, and they'd be asking for exception for 7. Just to note, there is parking on Edison and Franklin, and looking at it's about 150 feet, linear feet. So you could say maybe if the average car is 15 feet, you could probably fit 7 to 8 cars on each one of those frontages as well. So, Plan Commission, they can either approve the 5,000 square feet on that as a condition, or they can keep it at 4,000, or we can come back once there is a tentative restaurant or use for that building. So staff's recommendation is to approve the conditional use request to allow the construction of a new multi-tenant development with drive-through facilities and outdoor seating dining area, with exceptions to parking and landscaping standards located at 603 through 613 North Central Avenue, zoned UMU urban mixed use, with the following conditions. The proposed development is allowed up to 4,000 square feet of restaurant space. Per the applicant, he would like to adjust that to 5,000, but that Plan Commission can choose to make that decision. The proposed development shall have no less than 51 on-site parking stalls. All drive-through facilities shall be closed no later than 10 p.m. Refuse areas shall be completely screened from all property lines. Landscape and lighting standards found under Article 8 and Section 18-104 of the zoning code shall be met. Construction shall start within 24 months and completed within 36 months of Common Council approval. Minor site plan changes may be administratively approved, provided additional exceptions from Chapter 18 are not required. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, this matter requires a public hearing as well, so I will open the public hearing. Are any members of the public wish to comment at this time? Step up to the podium. And please start with your name and address and then whatever you have to say.
My name is Noah Michael. I live at 604 North Maple Avenue. I see one of my concerns was already addressed with the Section 18 for the lighting. My concern was with the noise. If the restaurants and stuff are still going to be operated after 10 p.m., it looks like there was some openings that would be on the north side, and that is relatively close to 2 properties that are right there, even though it is across the alleyway. So my concern would be noise at that point. Right now, most of that property is empty besides the old, what used to be Hot and Now way back when building there. And even inside my house, I can hear vehicles at Weiler's gas station across Central. I can hear semis that roll up and down Central later at night too. So, my concern is partly noise and then parking as well. There's a business on the north side of this whole block. I think it's Brown Automotive. And they utilize some of the street for parking their vehicles and also getting larger vehicles in and out. So if there is customer parking on that side, that would impact their business. And then on the south side, there's another restaurant already that during their peak times, their parking lot overflows into the street. And it makes traffic in and out of Edison very difficult, because if there's parking on both sides, you cannot fit 2 cars side by side down Edison on that side. I've tried to go through, and a lot of times you have to queue and wait for traffic to come through. So vehicles turning off Central and vehicles turning onto Central become a little bit of a problem. And it's usually busy right at peak rush time in the morning between 7 and 9. So that would be my concerns if they're looking at extending the space from the 4,000 to the 5,000 and pushing more parking spaces to the street load. That would be a traffic and possibly a safety hazard from how I see it.
Any other public comments? Seeing no one else from the public who wishes to speak, we will close the public hearing. And we have a motion. Chris,
Just wanted to, in my opinion, that's a prime lot. I mean, that space has been there wide open for, and the old Hot and Now building is kind of an eyesore. So in my opinion, that's a prime spot. And has there been any proposed tenants for that setup, or?
Yeah, there is a couple. One was a sandwich shop, and then there's a couple other restaurants that the applicant was potentially looking to pursue.
I'll move to approve staff recommendation.
With the 4,000, or
Can I do the amendment at this point, or?
I mean, you could have started with
you
that.
can
if
make
you
a
wanted
motion to approve whatever
Okay.
you want.
But you can make a motion whatever you want to, you don't have to stick with staff, but you could say with staff recommended.
With the change, move to approve staff recommendation with the change of, to 5,000, with the exception of 7 parking stalls.
Second by Chris.
Okay, now we can discuss.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah. So my question is, we mentioned the parking issue. So you mentioned the spots on Edison and Franklin that would be available. How much of that parking is used today on the street? The gentleman that spoke earlier makes it sound like it's already kind of accounted for.
Yep, I guess on the side of, the sides of the streets that this business would be located, I mean, I don't know how that could be. I mean, I guess somebody could use it. Looking at air photos when I was doing some measuring, I didn't really see any on there, but then again, that's not during peak time.
Mhm.
I'm sure you'd have a better idea. He sees it more often than I do. I can tell you that tenant that they have in line, Jimmy John's, and it's probably not gonna be that morning intensive. So, I mean, during the day, is it quite the same, or I'm sure Brown Auto uses the north of it.
Which restaurant is that? Yeah, okay.
Okay, sorry, Tom. Mr. Pinker, you look like you have a thought.
Yes. I think John was on the commission when this first came.
Mhm.
And can correct me if need be, but I believe it was the consensus that we wanted to see this property develop. Because the large vacant spot, we had something that was unsightly at that time. And there weren't too many questions. There may have been some questions about parking, but we're looking at 4 years ago. And I know relative to other occasions where we've had some, what I'll rep, limited lot sizes, we've used on-street parking. account for the total. Now, the gentleman here brings up an interesting question, and that's about the total availability. And if what he's describing occurs on a regular basis, then that raises the issue for public safety. Do we have the ability to get fire apparatus? Do we have the ability to get ambulances through there safely when we have maximum parking? I have a concern about that. The other concern I've got, how time sensitive is is our decision? Is this something that is going to hinder development if we carry this over to another meeting? Rita, could you address that for us so we know exactly what's going on?
Well, I can address the fire department too. We did run this through our development review team with the fire departments on too, and Pete Fletty looked at it and he approved of this site layout.
Rita Blankers, Century 21. We're closing next week. And if this doesn't get approved tonight and next Tuesday, Common Council, it'll be delayed, and then I don't know. So we've been dealing with Ardell, which is a wonderful family-orientated company that's doing this. And Jimmy John's, I don't believe, is 7 in the morning. I think that they're later. I don't think they're ever early in the morning. So I don't think that would be an issue. So, and public parking on the street is for public parking. Nobody has ownership of that as far as I think. So maybe some of the businesses that have that might have to look at changing some of their things. Maybe their employees need to park somewhere else for the customers at those spots. So, but it is a prime location and we've been dealing with it for a while. So I hope you approve it.
Josh?
Yeah, and the Public Works, Board of Public Works does have the ability to restrict parking, and I know that's not something we want to do, but if it did become a situation of emergency access, they could restrict parking on one side of the street, so to ensure that there would be obviously passability for emergency vehicles. That does reduce the parking, but, and does likely push parking further into the residential neighborhood, which we don't like to see. When we rebuilt Central Avenue in that location, there used to be parking on Central Avenue. We took that parking lane out to accommodate some turn lanes, so, which is good. I mean, it helps traffic flow on Central Avenue, but that wasn't part of the plan when this was reviewed 4 years ago either. So, and I don't know that the fire department looks at the surrounding parking necessarily or knows all the situations when they're reviewing it. They're strictly looking at the access in and out of the site. And if we have to restrict parking on the street or limit it or keep it so far from driveways or alleyways to accommodate vision triangles and things like that, we can make those notes as things develop with the developer or with the Board of Public Works.
Going back to your parking analysis, just go through those numbers. If he has 4,000 square feet, do the 51 parking spaces apply?
No, need 3 more. He should be short 3. At the 5,000, it would be short 7. So a difference of 4 it would make.
Excuse my interruption. This is J.R. Seward, and if I could make a comment on behalf of my client, I'd appreciate being recognized to be able to do so.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
J.R. Seward, Global Bankers Seward Realtors. My client is Cardell Potter, and I wanted to point out, because it hasn't been brought up, that on the north side is the proposed location where the Jimmy John's is planning on being. And in the current drawing that you're looking at, there is currently approximately 1,800 square feet. And our client's plan is actually to change that to, Ardell was at 1,300 or 1,350. Am I remembering correctly?
Correct, yeah, 1,300.
Right? And Cardell, what percentage of your business is eat in, sit down, people parking their car versus picking up their food or having it delivered?
Yeah, so Marshfield's going to be more of a high delivery area for us, and obviously now with COVID restrictions, things have switched immensely to just to go order. So people are in and out quick. I guess that's the nice thing with the Jimmy John's Freaky Fast. They're in and out the door in a quick manner. And that's kind of the reason why we wanted to go down to 1,300 square feet, just because some of our stores are bigger and nobody's dining in anymore. Or they're taking it to go home and eat with their families or at other locations outdoors.
So what do you think the likelihood is of Jimmy John's on the north end needing on-street parking in addition to all the parking places that are there on this proposed plan?
Yeah, I don't foresee that being any issue in relevance with like some of our other locations. We have kind of a similar setup. And like I said, with us being the, Freaky Fast, usually customers aren't waiting long by any means. It's not any hot food, so people aren't waiting on that. They're in and out, so there certainly wouldn't be a lineup, along those lines, I guess.
Thanks, Cardell, and thank you for allowing us to be recognized. Hopefully the information will be helpful to the Plan Commission.
Thank you. Any members of the commission have any further comments? John?
I do have a question on the parking requirements with respect to a restaurant that has a drive-up centric business versus more of a sit-down eatery. Do we differentiate that in the parking requirements or no?
Yeah, it depends on the main use of it. So whether it's, pull it up here, but whether it's, like it would reflect on what a restaurant would be. And so that'd be indoor commercial entertainment.
Answer is no, we don't differentiate a drive-through. Basically, a drive-through parking is the same as a restaurant parking.
Yeah, so to me, that's really not appropriate for this type of business. I mean, they're I believe that was an attorney that was talking that it's gonna be in and out, quick, or drive-through where they're not parking at all. So to me, that alleviates a lot of my concern about how much parking we may or may not have.
I guess when I look at the site plan there, the diagram, I see ample parking dependent upon what the other space in the building is used for. But for a drive-through, I think that matches some of what I can recollect as some of the other drive-throughs along Central Avenue. Josh?
Yeah, and then not to convolute it anymore, but I mean, you could stick with the original application that gives a little bit of a reduction in the parking of 4,000 square feet and see how the rest of it develops and, if they want to come back at a later date. And I don't know if this works for the sale or the applicant, but they could always come back if they want a third. Basically, the additional 1,000 square feet or additional parking is if there would be a third restaurant there. And then we have no way of knowing what kind of restaurant that would be. That may impact the parking situation, the traffic circulation. But two drive-throughs, you're gonna have traffic in the alley quite a bit or near adjacent to the alley. But the intent would be more drive-through focused rather than parking. So the two situations right now with the drive-through, probably like John said, it probably alleviates the parking concern. A third restaurant may add to that, but we don't. So if there was some trepidation about that could be a way to allow the Plan Commission to review a third restaurant at a later date.
So as I can see, both restaurants on the north and south end that are proposed here would be using the same alley to access their drive-up facility. So if I want to go to Jimmy John's, which is going to be on the north one, and so I'd have to pass through, Bill's drive-through restaurant here, down here, past their drive-up window to get to Jimmy John's? Like, would I have to go through their line?
No, you would take the alley to get
There's
to the
a-
menu board.
There's a way around it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so the alley runs adjacent to that eastern, the alley runs adjacent to the drive-through line. So you can take the alley till you get to the Jimmy John's area.
Oh,
there would
so
be
the
some-
drive-up isn't part of the alley?
No.
I see, okay.
No,
All right,
it's
never
adjacent
mind
to
that.
it.
Understand.
Yes, sir. You step up to the podium. No,
Okay, I was just say, if the restaurant that's gonna be on the north side is Jimmy John's, that alleviates most of my concern with dealing with the parking. Because out of all the Jimmy John's that I've been to, rarely does a car sit there for more than 50. So we don't have to worry about, like, as far as I'm concerned, that takes away any extra crowding that would be. But, like he mentioned before, if there's another restaurant that does move in, then that would take over some of that parking and may push it back out onto the street again. So, but as far as I'm concerned, if Jimmy John is going to be one of the anchor stores, and that should take care of the parking concern, at least for my
Thank you.
sake.
Thank you. Any further questions?
One, on the 4,000 to 5,000 foot difference, could it be that if it went back to the 4,000, that it would cost them an additional possible restaurant? Or,
I guess it's up, you'd have to ask them that. It would cost some time to come back here for a review if that was an issue. I mean, I think we could do but it's a difference of what, 4 stalls is ultimately what it ends up being.
Yeah.
As you subtract, it's 150 square feet per stall, but if it's like a retail, it's 350 square feet per stall. So you have to subtract that out for the 150 square feet you take up as a restaurant. So the difference isn't as great as it seems, but it's about a difference of 4 stalls.
Yeah.
That would be required.
I just think the more the merrier. I mean, we need more things in town. It's a prime spot, and I'd go, we've already made the motion to go to the 5,000 feet. It's been seconded, so I would stick with that, in my opinion, and give them the opportunity to maximize with only a difference of 4 stalls that we're talking about. In my opinion, this is it's a go. I mean, I like the idea. Like I said before, it's a prime location. Get that eyesore out of there and let's go forward, my opinion.
Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in the motion is to approve the conditional use request with the development allowed up to 5,000 square feet of restaurant space. And the rest of it as recommended by staff. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Now I just need a minute because we went long enough. There we go. So item number
Thank you
8.
for,
What's that?
They were saying thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Item
have a
number,
good evening and a Merry Christmas.
thank you. Item number 8 is a conditional use request by Robert Burrows Jr. to allow for a salvage or junkyard land use as a conditional use in the GI General Industrial Zoning District located at 2609 East 4th Street, parcel number 33-03412 AB. Presented by Emmett Tomkowski, Associate Planner. Emmett.
Thank you, Mr. Paschal. So like the other one, this was also issued a conditional use permit in 2020. That permit had a time-sensitive condition on it that the entrances or the exits going on the 4th Street had to be hard surfaced with 1 year of council approval. So, and then they say with economics that happened, the cost of building supplies, they never got this done. So now they want to start again on this next year. So the parcel is located on east side of the city. It's a general commercial and industrial area. There is some residentially zoned parcels on the north side of the tracks. There is some CMU where Weiler's gas station is, and then on the other side of 4th Street, there's some light industrial. So the applicant is proposing to use this site as a salvage yard, which they will collect the following materials: farm machinery, demolition steel, prepared foundry steel, sheet iron, stove, motor, auto cast and brake drums, baling wire, electric motors, automobiles, and manufacturing equipment. They also collect some non-ferrous equipment such as aluminum, die-cast, lead, magnesium, radiators, brass, copper, stainless, zinc, and auto batteries. These are items that they will not accept: light bulbs, tires, small household batteries, dishwashers, electronics of certain types, precious metals, treadmills, all plastic microwaves, any and all hazardous material, any sealed containers, garbage, and refuse. So this is their proposed site plan that they had. He said it was also granted that conditional use, and now that time frame doesn't work. Currently, there's only two existing buildings. That would be the office building and the car bay and non-ferrous building. Those other two buildings only remains as a concrete slab. So materials will be collected directly on site. They'll be weighed, and customers will be directed to appropriate storage area where it'd be placed on hard surface or directly in a dumpster. They also provide lugger and roll-off boxes for commercial accounts. So then the vehicles will received on site will be stored east of the car bay non-ferrous building. From there, it'll be moved to forklift indoors for processing to be drained fluids and potentially hazardous materials such as oils, batteries, antifreeze, and then it'll be shipped to their Newton facility for crushing and shredding. So some of the site modifications, they're planning on removing and replacing a new office building. It'll likely be a steel building with metal siding. The new building will be about the same size as the current one, which is about 10,000 square feet. The car bay non-ferrous one, the structure will remain, but it'll need some upgrading. The siding will need to be removed and replaced on all four sides. The garage door entrance will need to be replaced and widened, and the floor will need to be concrete. There will be an industrial size scale that will need to be added to the property for weighing materials. Likely it'll be just west of the office building. Exact location will depend on current location of underground utilities. So then the applicant will need lighting for safety and to deter vandalism. At this time, all lighting is planned to be mounted on the building and on the office building and car bay. So the property has more than enough space to accommodate the required parking, which is one space per every 20,000 square feet of gross storage area, plus one space for each employee on a larger shift. Staff is going to be recommending that all driveways that exit on the 4th Street will be hard surfaced within 2 years or prior to the business operating. So then the property will also be enclosed by an 8-foot barbed wire fence, and it's gonna be screened with a heavy-duty tarp, so you won't be able to see in well. So then the land use requirements in Chapter 18. This property does not abut any residential properties, so no buffer yards will be required. With the 50-foot setback, this property was actually granted a variance in 2020 for building and structures and storage areas for a 0-foot setback. So the 50-foot setback is not applicable to this. All activities regarding hazardous materials shall meet all local, state, and federal requirements. This actually just changed last year. We did a zoning code amendment. Hazardous materials was prohibited within this land use. The city attorney said it was inconsistent because we allowed handling automobiles, which contain those materials. So now we allow it, but it has to meet state, local, and federal requirements. And the parking requirements are met. So with that said, staff's recommendation will be to approve the conditional use request to allow for a salvage or junkyard land use as a conditional use in the GI General Industrial Zoning District located at 2609 East 4th Street with the following conditions. Any driveway used for exit traffic onto 4th Street shall be hard surface from the edge of 4th Street for a distance of 50 feet north of the south property line within 2 years of approval of the conditional use permit or prior to operating the facility, whichever is sooner. Proper entrance and exit signage shall be posted on the property near access driveways. Material piles may not exceed a height of 30 feet when measured from the ground. All activity areas must be screened by 6 to 8 foot security and privacy fence or screened by existing structures. All fences must adhere to zoning code requirements for fences. Smelting and open burning are not permitted. Applicant must obtain and maintain all required registrations, such as refrigerant licenses, auto salvage dealer, and permits, building, fence, and stormwater wastewater from the city, Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and Wisconsin Department of Transportation for their operations, including but not limited to those in parentheses. Applicants must implement fugitive dust emissions best management practices Any handling, disposing, or storing of hazardous materials shall meet all local, state, and federal regulations. Operations may not begin before 7 a.m. or end after 7 p.m. Minor site plan changes may be administratively approved, provided they do not need additional exceptions from the zoning code or from any conditions approved with this conditional use permit. And that was a lot, and that's all I got for you.
Okay, this matter requires a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on this matter? Seeing no members of the public here who wish to comment, we will close the public hearing. And I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the conditional use request for the boroughs.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Panker, second by Mr. Papillion. Any comment? My only question is, do they have enough room on this property for everything that they're planning? A scale and traffic in and out.
Representative, like to speak for them?
Okay. Did you hear my question? My question was, is there enough, space on the property for, a scale and traffic in and out?
Yeah, we addressed that the last time we were in person. The first time it was granted, and I came with my clients. And the reason they're not here tonight is because of that labor shortage. They've just been working like crazy. But yeah, there's enough space to do everything they want to do.
Okay. And is there offloading onto the railroad tracks with the scrap, or is it all done by truck?
It's all done by truck that's the plan at the moment.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion is to approve the conditional use permit. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? No one's opposed, so that motion carries. Item number 9 is staff update.
Just a couple, working with the Historic Preservation Commission, they, are looking to put a sign, for the Park Street, Historic District on the west side, so that's, gonna be on Park Street, on the south end of Park Street, just on the west edge of the Historic District. So as you're driving east on Park Street, you'll see a new sign eventually. The reason I'm pointing it out is because it's a sign, related matter, but it's not approved by the Plan Commission, it's approved by the Board of Public. So, not that you'd see a sign and say, why are we not reviewing that, but wanted to give you a heads up on that. Write this stuff down. I had one other thing, but I can't. We did have as far as updating you, the Plan Commission on planning projects, we had our kickoff meeting with the Second Street Corridor, project oversight team today. Starting with, getting information from stakeholders and talking about vision, what we vision that area to be and any concerns or issues. So it was a good discussion, meeting. They toured the site. They got to tour the Weinbrenner building and the city garage, and very excited to get that project going, and certainly include information on a regular basis to this commission. So if you have questions or want to be involved or want to have input on that process, Bill Pinker is the representative from the Plan Commission, but we'd love to hear more input, and we're very excited about that project.
Okay. Thank you, Josh. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Chris and a second by John. We're adjourned.